David questions.
Here I am up in Vermont, and I'm with Pete the Moose. Pete the Moose is tame and loving, and I was just patting him. And this is, gentleman, is Dave. Dave, what's your last name, please?
Lawrence.
Dave Lawrence, and Dave's an avid naturalist. And the reason I'm doing this video is Pete the Moose, who's on Facebook, and is there a website for Pete?
Yes, there is.
What's the website, please?
Save Pete or Save the Moose. I have it at home.
SavePeteTheMoose.com, or what have you. And Pete is slated for execution by the state of Vermont January 5th, 2010, because he's contained behind an enclosed environment, not a free moose. And Dave, please tell me the story about this moose.
Pete was, his attention was called to me when he was maybe a day or two old, and a couple of people were walking their dogs on a mountainside, and they came upon Pete, his mother, and a sibling, who knows what, bull or cow. The dogs attacked Pete and the mother and the other baby, and she ran away with the other baby, and Pete laid down on the ground and didn't leave, but come to find out the dogs had bit him through both stakes, and he laid there on the ground for 4 days. They called the Fish and Wildlife Department, and they said, do not feed him, do not take him home. If she doesn't return, let him die. And after 4 days they could not stand it, so they bought some milk replacer, and they put it in a bottle and forced him to suck it at first. And then he responded, and of course they had no place to keep him, and they had heard about me through some people that work at UVM.
University of Vermont.
Correct. And they called and asked if I would accept him and save his life, and I talked to my friend Doug Nelson, who owns this preserve, and we have moose in here anyway that have been in here all their lives. And he said, of course, I could bring him here. And that's the story of how Pete got here. And he was infected. He had maggots in his body, holes down into his flesh that you could stick your finger into.
From the animal wounds of the dog.
From the wounds of the dogs. And of course, we gave him antibiotics and dressed his wounds and saved his life. And now the state of Vermont wants to kill him. And he's a tame moose, and he cannot go into the wild, but they won't accept him in the wild because they say he has CWD, which of course he does not have.
Wait, they say he might have CWD.
Chronic wasting disease. And LaRouche, the commissioner, was on the radio this morning on the Buck Report from Johnson Wooling Mill saying there's no CWD in the state of Vermont. Then if there's no CWD in the state of Vermont, how in hell has this moose got CWD?
Has there ever been CWD in the state of Vermont?
Never.
Then that's insane. They're trying to legitimize the killing of this moose. For the hunting industry, in my opinion.
It's their crutch to stand on. That's the only way they can win, is to swing the public into believing they're right.
Well, that's just absolutely horrifying. Pete, I think you're very cute. Can I pat you, please? She's already let me pat him. I'd like to pat you only for the video. You are an adorable creature. Dave's bringing hay and apples for the moose to eat. So the mayor of Vermont is currently a Republican. The governor of Vermont. And he's running a liberal state, and I'd like to see him reach out to the people of Vermont and show that he really cares about the people being a liberal state and save this moose. And not let it be executed just for reasons that the hunting industry would like to see this moose dead because it goes against their grain. In my humble opinion, this is strictly my opinion, I'm naive on this, but I think that they're afraid that if people see that moose can be tame and be loving like a pet, like a horse, that people will be against the hunting of moose. Animal rights activists will come up and fight against the hunting of moose. Well, that's never going to happen. They would never succeed anyway, because the animal rights activists will not cease the hunting of moose, so the hunters need not be afraid of this. That's irrational. I do believe that animal activists, I would want to encourage them to come up and demonstrate against the killing of this particular moose, though. Because it's totally absurd to execute and murder this moose, and I don't call it a killing, I call it murder. Because there's no reason to kill this moose, other than to sanction the hunting industry and have an excuse. Vinny, can you think of any questions to ask Dave, or any statements?
Not offhand.
This certainly is a majestic creature, though, Pete. Dave, is there anything else you can think of offhand to tell us about the whole situation?
Patty's here. They want to kill Patty.
They want to kill this moose?
They want to kill 5 other moose that are in the enclosure. They want to kill 150 whitetails that...
White-tailed deer.
A few were shot in here, white-tailed deer, when they first built the fence 9 years ago. They did not come and remove the few deer. They were here. They knew they were here. They've let it mushroom, escalate to where...
Who's they?
The Fish and Wildlife Department. They had the jurisdiction then, which they do now, which they're trying now, 9 years down the road, to do something about it when they have hundreds of animals to murder when they could have murdered 10. The animals are hunted here. Pete isn't hunted here. The moose aren't hunted here. We don't have that many moose. They don't do that well in captivity. It's not going to be a problem with their population. However, the white-tailed deer need to be managed, which we do. But they can't handle this because it's strictly against the Vermont tradition. Whatever that is.
Now, is there any group that we can reach out to help save these moose?
I don't know.
The ASPCA tries to fight to save sharks. You think they'd care more about moose than an ugly, potentially man-eating shark? I'm calling out to the ASPA to do something. The people to contact the ASPA and rally for Pete the Moose. All those people who contribute funds to the ASPCA should be concerned about this moose more than sharks. I mean, I'm not trying to condemn sharks, don't get me wrong, but I would certainly say that these animals are far more important. They're mammals, they're warm-blooded, they're loving. This creature comes up and kisses you legitimately. Actually kisses you. And licks you like a dog. Oh, Pete, I don't want to see you dead in a month from now. For bureaucratic reasons, for a legislature that legislates hunting and sanctions hunting. Well, that's fine. Hunting's fine. That should not be the reason that you die. Just because you're tame and cute and as smart as a horse and could be ridden if we wanted to. See, most people think that wild animals can't be tamed. Well, most can't, like a lion or a tiger. You would not tame them. Many forms of prey can't be tamed, but a moose is an intelligent creature. It's like a horse, and it can be tamed, and that's where it's a threat to hunters. They figure, well, if we know there's such tame, loving creatures, that maybe people will speak out against the hunting of moose, because people certainly would not tolerate the hunting of horses. She reminds me of Bullwinkle. Do you know if Bullwinkle is a male or a female? Bullwinkle is a male. That was my favorite cartoon. I consider that the most sophisticated cartoon on television. I mean, of course I love Bugs Bunny, but... Anything else to say? We're running out of time. We got 18 seconds left on the video.
Save Pete. Save Patty. Save them all.
I can't disagree with that. Please, Vermont, please, Governor of Vermont, stick up for these animals.